Everyone, Janet Kuypers.
Tom isn't here because I know one thing he particularly likes.
Hi there.
Maybe he'll be here later.
Yeah, I don't understand. But this was going to be a day where I would read only poems from my periodic table of poetry book, where I decided a few years ago to write a poem for every single element in the periodic table. And there are some bonus poems and I've got other things. And so I was thinking I would read 3, but I'm going to ask for a request for the second one. So after I read 1, pick an element or pick a number and I will read it, and then I'll read the last one, if that is cool with anybody here. Otherwise, I'll just have to randomly find something. But this is a periodic table of poetry, and I haven't seen these in the longest time, but I thought I'd start with one that seems a bit more obvious, and I would start with oxygen. In the South Pacific Ocean, I held my breath, plunged into the swamp, deeper into the water, and I swam to get closer.
Titanic went down in 19...
I swam to get closer to the school of white-tipped sharks huddled at the bottom of the ocean. With my flippers, I pushed myself deeper into the water. The now useless snorkel was my only reminder of air as I kept going with only my mask for navigation. Though the moving sand did not entirely obstruct the water, the sun grew less intense and farther as I traveled. Just remember to not get too close to the sharks, I had to keep telling myself. I almost froze when I spotted the stingray. They work so hard to avoid being seen so they can spring their surprise their prey that they have their next meal then. I spotted it, but it made me stop. It surprised me that I had come this far and nothing but a little water separated me from animals that could seal my fate. I stared for a while, then realized that I needed to get some air, so I turned toward the light. I had been underwater so long that the oxygen was pulled from my muscles, and I didn't have the energy to kick. I panicked. When you become acutely aware of your desperate need for air, your body plays tricks on you. I forgot about looking back at the sharks and the stingray below. I even forgot about the sea lions and the lion seals above. I'll deal with whatever's on the surface when I get there. Now, get yourself to kick. Think. You can do this. Push. I managed to kick my legs once and started to move my way through the water. I hoped momentum would keep me going, but nothing was fast enough any longer. You can do this, I thought. Push again. I pushed. I moved, but the surface seemed miles away. Now, I know there's twice as much hydrogen around me as oxygen, but oxygen is so much bigger than hydrogen. Oxygen is the most abundant chemical element by mass in our biosphere, in our air and land and our sea, but I can't get to that oxygen in this water. I can't let this be the death of me. My chest started to tighten. My chest started burning like someone lit a match, and the last oxygen from my body was setting my lungs on fire. I clenched my teeth tighter around that snorkel mouthpiece. I knew I couldn't breathe yet, but I couldn't let this piece go free and possibly move my mask while I was trying to save myself. Come on, I thought, your legs are strong, you can do this. So I pushed again until I could see a few people trying to swim toward me. I tried to keep moving until someone threw their arm around my waist. I hoped they would be able to breathe for the both of us until we were actually both to the surface. I remember feeling wet sand being pushed against my skin as they dragged me out of the water until they could let me lay on my side so that I could cough. I had no water in me, but all I could do anything that I could possibly do to get myself to actually be able to get breathing again and get oxygen again. Once I was able to breathe comfortably again, I tried to think of my breathing. I know I can't get oxygen toxicity from breathing too deeply, so take a deep breath. Get the oxygen to my blood. Your toes are tingling. Inhale deeply. Now imagine the oxygenated blood rushing to your feet. The oxygen is in your brain now. Keep thinking mentally, pushing this oxygen through your body. Once I got back inside that evening, they had started a fire in the fireplace for me. And I thought, how fitting. I was stuck in the water with all that hydrogen and oxygen until I could have some oxygen to breathe again. We are over half water as it is, meaning that the majority of our mass is oxygen. And there I was, now at a roaring fireplace with oxygen fueling the fire. It's funny how, on this one day, a basic element like oxygen could help me go where I'd never been before, could help me warm up at the end of the day, and could show me how its absence, how crucial it was everywhere I needed in my life. This is a strange question. I would ask this when I see Robin. Hello. If anybody wanted to name an element randomly, give me a number or give me an element, and I will read that poem. Otherwise, I will read it. She says 27, and now I have to find out what 27 is. And you know, I saw this earlier. I was like, oh, I'm going to look for. I wanted to find one, and I have the element number and the page number, and I went to go and hey, that's my Touching Cobalt poem on page 110. And I went to, and I'm like, I have to find this poem, and I went to the element number, not the page number, and I'm like, oops, what did I do? So this is my Cobalt poem. It is on page 110, and there we go. And this is Touching Cobalt. And when I was in Chicago, I would always do these in a performance art show first. And I did this one at the Art Colony, and I said, John, would you come up with me? And I've got these big blue glasses, and we look like we're toasting together. And this is what I think of whenever I have this element. This is for Cobalt 27, as she requested. This is Touching Cobalt. We toasted our anniversary with cobalt blue champagne glasses after we looked over the cobalt and tungsten wedding bands. Seems fitting, since I'm so attracted to you, that we're drawn to cobalt, one of the most magnetic elements. I heard a physicist explain that when two solid objects are pressed together, they never actually touch. Now, I can't imagine it, but maybe because electrons repel, all objects remain one molecule apart. This must be why, when we embrace, I want to hold you tighter and tighter, because I want to defy the laws of physics and feel that contact with you as long as I possibly can. Because right now, I don't care about electrons keeping us one molecule apart, because when it comes to cobalt, it's 27 protons and 32 neutrons are wound tightly together with a strong nuclear force. Its nuclear binding energy is so strong that it only breaks apart once it's broken down into its isotopes. It won't break apart in its pure form. Kind of like us, I suppose. Oh, we seem to be so bound together. Physicists say that solid objects can never actually touch. And I'm sorry, but when it comes to us, that just can't be. Because I want to experience you with all of my senses. I want our molecules to intermingle. I want us to actually touch. And because this is one I thought people wouldn't pick, this one, and it's like 112 or something in the periodic table, and it's called Meitnerium. And I'm in a road trip, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be writing these elements. I don't know. I think it's 112, but because I don't have it in the book. But it's Meitnerium. I have no idea what this is. And when they get that high up in the periodic table, they are, produced in the labs in very little form. So I'm like, well, maybe I should look up why it's called Meitnerium. And that's the reason why I've got this element poem for you. And this is Meitnerium. Performance artists and feminists alike will jump at the chance to explain that women aren't treated fairly in this world. Women in the workplace make 70-some cents for every man's dollar. And if they're married, they're still expected to take care of the kids and cook the meals and clean the house. As a woman, I can tell you that I'm objectified nearly every time I go outside for a long walk with horn honks and cat calls. And objectively, it is rough when the cards seem stacked against you as a woman trying to get ahead in the world. And I hate to be the person who squashes the ego of all of the women out there, but if you think it's rough for you women right now, think of the uphill battles you'd have to go through, say, if you lived maybe a century ago. That was a time when women didn't have the right to vote, and why on earth would they want to vote or even go to school unless they wanted to be a teacher or maybe a nurse, when there are places at home to live to agree with their breadwinner, husband, father, patriarch, master. Because not all of you may have a scientific mind, but one woman, Lisa Meitner, born to a Jewish family in Austria 10 years before Hitler, she was just blocked from, in so many ways, to achieve any of her goals in life. Because she actually got her doctoral degree in physics in the days when women weren't even allowed to attend schools for higher education. Professor Planck in Berlin, who usually rejected any woman wanting to attend his lectures, allowed her in. And in a year, Meitner became actually his assistant. She later worked without a salary before she worked in Prague as an associate professor. She was the first woman in Germany to become a full professor in physics, and she eventually co-discovered nuclear fission with Otto Hahn. I mean, Albert Einstein even praised her by calling her the German Marie Curie. And yeah, as Adolf Hitler came to power and most of her colleagues immigrated from Germany after they were forced to resign their posts, Meitner just stayed there and just immersed herself in her work until she witnessed the Anschluss, the annexation of Austria into Germany, and she felt forced in 1938 to flee to Holland, then Sweden. But a chemist where she worked, Kurt Hess, was an avid Nazi, so he even informed the authorities that she was about to flee. So it was lucky that she escaped. Meitner even said that she escaped with only 10 marks, but before she left, Otto Hahn even gave her a diamond ring for her escape in case she needed to bribe someone in the frontier guards maybe, and she actually didn't need to use that for escape, but she saved that ring and she later wore it and used it for the nephew's wife in a later marriage. Sorry, that was not reading. That blows my mind. Still reading it. Sorry. Just after her assistance with nuclear fission, she didn't want to think of herself, to think of this being used as a weapon, and she refused an offer to work with the Manhattan Project. The sad thing is that she co-discovered nuclear fission, but this at the same time her male co-workers, Otto Hahn, who was awarded the 1944 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of nuclear fission, that bothered her, but Some historians say that Meitner should have been awarded the Nobel Prize with Hahn. But keep in mind that this was a man's world back then. Though she was nominated for a Nobel Prize 3 times, she has never received awards in later years. In addition to having craters on the moon and on Venus named after her, in addition to element 109, that's the element number 109. Well, yeah, element 109, Meitnerium, is a highly radioactive synthetic element. Its radioactivity makes me think of that nuclear fission that she co-discovered with Otto Hahn. They also even discovered the element protactinium from it. But when it comes to naming element 109, it was the only proposed name, making Meitnerium the only element named specifically after a non-mythological woman. And really, there is so little of this Meitnerium that people can only guess its properties. But learning and discovering seemed to be something Meitnerium was all about, facing all odds and achieving so much. So give it up for Meitnerium.